Hello everyone and welcome to another Daily Muppet. I just wanted to get another video out, this time actually daily, simply because there's obviously so much going on right now. Obviously the biggest thing that happened yesterday is at night, Romero from Spain made the report that Frenkie De Jong had a 95% chance of joining Manchester United. Now if you recall, on Monday in the video, I mentioned the newest thing, the only real new news that I had at that time was that United were interested in De Jong and, however, had talked to him and his representatives and basically been given the answer that he wasn't really interested in joining United and I'd probably prefer a different club, Champions League obviously being a factor in there. It's an interesting situation. You know, when I was given that information, obviously I presented it and I took the news as the rejection or the lack of interest from De Jong in joining United. But obviously there's two parts to the information that I was given, which is one, United are obviously interested in Frenkie De Jong, and two, they've made contact with Frenkie De Jong, and then actually the third part, which is his response to that contact. So what's clear is, with all the reports that have come out in England now, is that United are interested in Frenkie De Jong. Barcelona have a situation where they have to sell a major asset because of their financial restrictions, and Frenkie De Jong is on big wages as well. Beyond that, it feels like it's being made out to be more than it is, and I have to trust the information that I was given because it comes from one of our best sources, and it seems to me like it was right. I mean, they were right about the interest, right about the contact, right about all of this 2 days before it came out. So I'm assuming they got to be right about the idea that Frenkie De Jong doesn't really want to join United. And there's been confirmations from people like Romano and others today that his preference is for a Champions League club. There are reports his preference is for somewhere like Manchester City or, you know, just essentially somewhere else. So it's tricky, and obviously it's true Barcelona want to sell. They need to. But from talking with people around United, and obviously the reports that have come out from Ducker, from all these guys, United aren't distancing themselves from it. They want him. They would have had to want him to even ask to get turned down or rejected or pushed off in the first place. But even then, it's like, you know, nothing is 100%. Even if he says, it's not my preference, I don't really want to come to United. If it comes down to it and there are no other options, and he's being forced out of Barcelona, maybe that no becomes a yes. Of course, the question of that is that, and I know this is going to sound crazy to say because everybody will say, oh, we have to sign Frenkie De Jong if he's available. Is it the right thing to do? To sign a player for 60, 70 million on 400K a week, huge wages, would be the highest at the club behind Ronaldo and the highest after next season, who doesn't really want to join, would be being pushed out of the club he wants to be at, that he loves, that he'd like to stay at, basically because he has no choice in the matter. Is that the right deal for United to make? Now, you could say, well, obviously, you know, it's different. Pairing him up with Ten Hag, who he's worked with before, is a good thing, and these are all, you know, positives to the situation. I'm just making that point as a devil's advocate that maybe there's some concerns there, and I have some concerns about it. But essentially, you know, where it's at is it all comes down to Frenkie De Jong. If Manchester City decide to go in for him, which it doesn't at the moment sound like they are, but we'll see, would he choose them? If PSG come in, would he choose them? If there's a way for him to restructure his deal at Barcelona and for them to sell other players like Ter Stegen, would he do that? Probably. It all comes down to De Jong. If United can get him, if he says yes, then it sounds like they will get him, that they will make a deal, and that Barcelona will be willing to sell. However, and I did ask about this, and I'm just sticking with it in terms of the news that was given because I definitely trust this source almost ultimately over any other at the moment. Just in asking about it as recently as this morning, From Frenkie De Jong's side, the same story. It's not advanced. There's not much happening. There haven't been huge discussions. United is not his preference. There haven't been some crazy convincing chats as of yet. That's what's coming from his side, from a source that I believe explicitly on this, that really essentially nothing's changed from the last point that was made. Again, the simple matter of it is it's not an absolute. It's all about whether or not Frenkie De Jong decides to come to United and there are no other options for him, and he makes a choice and says, let's go for it. Now, a big factor in that obviously can be Ten Hag. And the news you have today coming from Rob Dawson, who also, he's got this great scoop today, which is that Ten Hag is immediately already in recruitment meetings with people from United in Amsterdam. So obviously he knows something. He also reported 2 days ago on the United stand that Frenkie De Jong had said essentially no to United. So, it's not BS. It's not BS. This is someone who knows something. There's a lot of people out there who know something. And it wasn't like a full no. It was just he would prefer to go to somewhere else with Champions League, and it wasn't, his preference. And so it's very unlikely that it's at a 95% chance as it stands. I think it's strange to say that and put those numbers on it. However, now that Ten Hag has wrapped up the title at Ajax, now that meetings are ongoing, perhaps we are in a situation where this can now be affected by Ten Hag being available and by him being involved more actively on an everyday basis. He was already in discussions, but having real formalized meetings. And I think what's happened in this meeting, I said as soon as he wins the title, things would really pick off. So it's great that that's happened. I think what's happening in this meeting today is he's being presented with, we've contacted this player, this player, this player, this club, this club. These are the costs. These are the budgets. These are the players who want to come. What do you want to do? And we'll press forward on those deals. I believe that's exactly what's being discussed now. That United have been working through the early stages with pretty much every deal, and now they can press forward on them based on the decisions that he makes in terms of his priorities. So, and sales as well. So if he decides in this meeting, look, I 100% want Frenkie De Jong in, don't care what it takes, then perhaps it opens the door to him speaking with Frenkie De Jong, changing his mind, and assessing things. So we're just going to have to see what happens there. But it seems highly likely that the scenario as it stands now is United want him, Barcelona want to sell. Frenkie De Jong is not convinced of joining Manchester United. It's not his preference. He would prefer to stay at Barcelona first. Secondly, he'd prefer to go somewhere with Champions League. Third, if none of those options are available and he can be convinced by Ten Hag and by the United management, then it becomes a possibility if nothing can be worked out with Barcelona. And that's probably just where it stands. So, that could change very quickly, but that's the reality of it. I think that it's an intriguing prospect, but I do still want to play devil's advocate and say if it's very difficult to convince him and he's going to come on the biggest wages at the club, is it the right idea for this rebuild? Is it the right idea for a club that has been full of players who don't give their all, who don't try every single day, who don't seem to want to be here? When we've gone through Pogba, we've had Angel Di Maria, we've had Alexis Sanchez come for the money and not put in everything here. Is it the right move? If he's willing to take a pay cut and says, I'm totally dedicated and I'm excited about the project, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Obviously, this is just my opinion. Doesn't matter what I'm for or not. So let's see what happens there. I'm confident in the news that I've been given on it. If that changes and if he updates, if Ten Hag gets involved now and his mind changes and he becomes interested in it, then that would be great. In addition to that, I want to mention something about Pau Torres. I understand from his side as well that there's been contact between United intermediaries and Pau Torres representatives to kind of assess certain things, to ask about costs, to ask about his wants, to ask about contracts, to get ideas on prices. So I think that, again, this might be in alignment with the meetings that Ten Hag is having with recruitment now, where Pau Torres is one of the names big on that list for center back, because Bailly and Jones will be going, and perhaps more. So that's a big one. United have been interested in him for ages, and there's real legs to this story on Pau Torres. He could be someone that they look at if they choose to spend the money at center back. But there's a lot going on now, obviously. If you bring in Frenkie De Jong, you still need a defensive midfielder, most likely, almost assuredly. You still need one to balance the team. You still need that striker, that forward. It's hard to see that much money for other positions. So there's a lot up in the air now, and I think that things are going to start to become clearer now and press ahead following this meeting today. The other thing that is going to obviously progress now is coaches. As mentioned before, they'd already agreed with Ajax on a compensation for Van der Gaag, and now I think they'll press to get that agreed and essentially formally announced, as the season is now essentially over for Ajax. They've already announced their new manager, Schroeder, who was Ten Hag's assistant years ago. And so yeah, Van der Gaag. And then if that, there was obviously the only other name that has been concrete when it was announced that Ten Hag was joining United was Steve McClaren. And that should be pressing ahead now too. If he's going to join, I would expect Van der Gaag and Steve McClaren news to start coming out and get confirmed over the next few days to a week. I see no reason why that shouldn't be happening now, and I'm sure that that's also part of the discussions with Ten Hag is finalizing that, because he could join United in 5 days. After Ajax's last game, he could join United and start looking at training, looking at things, looking at coaching. So that should be happening. Those coaches should be brought in as well. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. I might be doing these a bit more often now as we're getting into the much busier time, and there might be updates every single day. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Leave your comments in below about what I mentioned about Frenkie De Jong. What are your thoughts on the matter? What do you think's going on? And do you think it's a good idea to just sign him outright and pay whatever it takes? Or do you think that there should be some concession from his side in showing that he wants to join United for it to be a good deal and a good start to this kind of rebuild under Ten Hag? Again, thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.